Welcome to the Healthcare Business Secrets Show, where we interview industry leaders and break down exactly how they're dominating their markets so you can learn from the best and can double your revenue, double your impact, and double your time off. In this episode, we're talking with Martyn Cook. Martyn is a serial entrepreneur who's co-founded a software company, built multiple seven-figure e-commerce brands, and co-founded a high-level digital entrepreneur mastermind that hosts luxury meetups around the world. Martyn's latest project, New Brew, a cognition drink, is on a mission to fortify 1 billion meals by 2025, helping to tackle the problem of malnutrition that 2 billion people experience worldwide. Martyn's also the host of the Smarter Destiny podcast, has spoken from stages around the world, and still somehow found the time to self-publish 2 books. Welcome to the show, Martyn.
Thanks for the introduction, James. Great to be here.
Dude, you are crushing it. It's awesome to see. And before the show, we kind of talked about this idea of your businesses need to pass the laptop on a beach kind of rule. And I love that. I love that idea that, not that you're necessarily going to go and do the classic entrepreneur Bali thing or whatever, but the fact that you can run your business from anywhere is an important part of your purpose and how you set things up, because then you can have options. So give us a little rundown on your background. Like, how'd you get to this point where you got all these different things going on? You're starting businesses and masterminds and things left, right, and center. What kind of keyed you off into the entrepreneur space, and what's been your progression?
Sure. I mean, when you asked, like, how did you get to this place? My immediate answer was failing a lot, right? Like, you can fail 99 times and succeed once and do great in life, right? And I think the difference between entrepreneur and not entrepreneur is how many times you're willing to pick yourself up, from the dirt and just keep going, right? It's At some point it's a little bit sadistic, but all that self-pain. But I mean, my journey began when I was 14. I learned how to design because there was a girl in my class who was a designer, and I thought that would impress her. So I thought, if I can learn how to make websites and use Photoshop and so on. It didn't work. It failed terribly, but it did give me a little bit of a gateway into the internet and designing things on a computer, and then eventually putting those designs on the internet, like as websites, and then using those websites to sell things. And that led me down a path. I was very lucky in the early days of Facebook to jump on the building assets train, if you like. Figured out that it was actually, if you put yourself in the right groups and hung out with the right people, it was quite easy to acquire very, very large Facebook pages back in the day when there was no EdgeRank, none of that annoying little algorithm that stops your fans that want to see your stuff from seeing your stuff. There's none of that. And pages grew very, very fast. As a result, I bought a lot of pages, sort of spent all my spare cash on those, and got to the point where I had 20 million fans across the 100 or so Facebook pages that I own. So on a daily basis, because everybody who was logged into Facebook and liked the page would see the posts, on an average day, I was talking to more people than radio shows or TV shows, and that taught me a lot about talking to people en masse, and predominantly how you can't make them happy. You cannot make everybody happy. Don't even try. You're better off making the people that really like you or really resonate with you really happy, and letting the other people sort of filter themselves out. I had a reach surplus and a product deficit. I could reach a lot of people but had nothing to sell, and that really led the sort of graduation into, right, I've got the traffic. What can I sell? What can I offer that adds value to lots of people en masse, and makes some money, pays the bills. And that sort of saw me into affiliate products, and then Teespring, selling print on demand, which is a really nice gateway drug type e-commerce, because you're selling printed apparel, but you don't have to fulfill it. You don't have to typically manage the customer service and so on. And then went on into the big boy leagues and launched a bunch of e-commerce brands. Some did better than others, had a few nice exits. Some of that led to building software, and it's been a heck of a time. I'm an open book, Jay. I'll talk about anything you like.
What year was this? Like, when? Because this sounds. When did you? Give me some context of what year this was. Like, when did this all kind of kick off? 2000 and what?
So, in terms of the Facebook side of things, the Facebook
pages and stuff,
probably around 2008, 2009-ish, somewhere around then. It's quite early on back then. I think I think everybody would agree it was sort of the early days of Facebook, but that was kind of, we did that for a couple of years. And what we would do in the early days is we would drive traffic. I say we, me, right? Drive traffic to websites that had really entertaining image galleries on them, but also had AdSense advertising. And so we would drive a lot of people to these AdSense powered sites. Certain number of them would click on the ads. I'd get paid. And then that was great. And I thought, right, to scale this, I need to find more people with more traffic. And so we partnered with some of the largest Twitter account holders around the world and built them sites and did rev share deals with them on these sites that we built for them and we managed, and they just sent a tweet which would crash servers, 6,000 people in 30 seconds kind of level. It was good fun.
It's really interesting because I was starting I was probably beginning chiropractic college. I can't even do the maths right now. I got a 2-month-old, for those of you who don't know, and you don't know. I got a 2-year-old and a 2-month-old, and so a little bit sleep deprived. But I graduated chiropractic college around 2013, 2014. I kind of really started, but it's a 5-year process. So around that time, I was kind of getting into this world, and I was at that point where I was like, I need to figure, like, I'm always been business driven, and I loved helping people, but I got into what I was doing because I grew up without much and believed that I needed to have things to be happy, and the classic thing, right? So I'm going through this stuff, and I'm realizing, well, I got to get clients. I got to, because we had a student clinic. I'm trying to use the internet and figure things out, and so I'm just online on the internet watching all this stuff all the time, and everyone else around me thought I was crazy. But I'm like, man, I need to start a Facebook group, pages, things like that. And I remember seeing this stuff, like when Facebook, the golden age, where you could just have a fan page and people would see your stuff, and I see it with new social platforms now, and I still miss the boat. But it's like TikTok, for example, blew up. Snapchat, when it was a bit more of a player, things like that. And you look at these things, and we always realize that now is always the golden age, because in 10 years, we're going to look back and go, damn, man, I wish I had have done A, B, and C. I wish I'd have spent more money on Facebook ads, right? I think what was it? Amazon was the top spender of Google ads at the time. And now Amazon's massive. Wish bought loads of Facebook ads when they were super cheap. And then I don't know where they are now, but they were massive. And it's the same thing. We're seeing things happen, but we want to watch before we jump in. I remember Teespring and looking at fulfillment of t-shirts. People still do that now. They run ads to, April is the best birth month, blah, blah, blah. And like people buy these t-shirts. It's hilarious. So your natural progression came from, I've got eyeballs, but I've got to make products. And then as I'm making products, I'm realizing what's working, what's not. And there's obviously a lot of tripping and falling and failing going on there, but that you just kind of kept going. What kept you going through that? Because a lot of people, they fall, they graze their knee, they go, oh, I should stop running so fast. And then they do it again. They go, oh, I'm going to stop running altogether. Whereas I think those of us who are successful, we scrape our knee and we think, awesome, I'm going to go faster and just not do that again. So what kind of kept you going throughout these failings, so to speak, before you started crushing it?
I think that's a great question. Is it the carrot? Is it the stick? I think in no small way, it's the pain for working for another idiot. That kind of, in terms of the stick, right? Like I've done the 9 to 5s. My very first 9 to 5, I worked in a fish and chip shop and pizza restaurant. I've made probably thousands of pizzas from scratch, just dough, and I'm a foodie, so I loved that, and that was a great gig. And I worked in this insurance broker place doing names and addresses, and that was just painful, right? And I think that was certainly I really don't want to do this for the rest of my life. And I don't understand why I have to wear a suit even though I'm not meeting clients. I don't understand why this company thinks I'm at my most productive between the hours of 9 and 5. I don't know why they think I'm at my most hungry at 12 o'clock for lunch, right? And so there's a lot of sort of questions that came up that entire time. Like, this is weird. This is really weird to me. So I think that sort of said, right, I'd rather figure it out. I'd rather make the rules. And failure is not really scary. You either succeed or you learn. I think that's what you're saying about the knee scraping. I think it's just having an idea of where you want to get to. And I don't actually mean an idea. I mean like a really friggin' clear, laid out plan. This is where I'm trying to get to. And I actually split my life into, I think it's 6 or 7 different pillars. But you've got your health, you've got your family, you've got your relationships, you've got your money, you've got your various different business projects and so on, right? And really understanding yourself, right? Taking some time to reflect. This is where I'm trying to get to. This is where I'm trying to get to in 12 months or 5 years. And then I'm going to work back from that. If I'm going to get to here in a year, what do I need to do? What are the 12 steps to that goal, right? Okay, so there's my monthly goals. Now, what can I do on a daily basis to get closer to my monthly goal? And when you start looking at it like that, it's less scary and more achievable. And I mean, I did the same thing. First time I grew a brand to $1 million revenue. We did it in its first 90 days from launching. So day naught, no money. Day 90, $1 million revenue. And that again, it was looking at it in terms of, wow, $1 million. That's scary AF, right? We can't do that. All right, let's break it down. Okay, so 90 days to $1 million. All right, that's roughly a third of $1 million per month. Okay, right, divide that down by 30. Divide, and you can get, okay, that's much more manageable. So yeah, that's kind of how I approach it. I think it's a great question. I haven't really sort of gone why.
Is your 7 areas thing, is that a Tony Robbins thing, by the way? Because I'm doing something similar at the moment where he talks about that is understanding like what are the areas of your life and then what are your clear outcomes in those areas. And I think it's important because we don't look at this stuff. We think about, money, maybe our health a little bit, definitely don't think about our relationships, but understanding that they all compound with each other to ultimately produce who we are and therefore what we can achieve. If you put a whole lot of gas in your car but you don't put air in the tires, then you're not going to go anywhere. It doesn't matter what quality gas, quality engine, anything. If there's no air, car's not going anywhere. So I think people sometimes forget that it's all of the components all the time working together is what lifts us up. And you can't just do the one. And the irony for me is I've realized that I was getting up at 3, 4 in the morning, doing sales calls, building my programs. Then I would go to clinic at 8 a.m., see clients, come back for lunch, do more calls, go back to clinic, come home, spend a little bit of time with the family with a new baby and a wife who's home all day breastfeeding and struggling with all of that sort of changes, not sleeping at night, and then starting over again. And it works in the short term, and I'll outwork anybody. Like I'll bleed at the fingertips and keep going. But long-term success can't be built from that. It has to be a balancing act. And I always find that the top people that I bring on the show, like yourself and the masterminds that I'm a part of, everyone thinks that, you're going to learn these tactics. How long should my videos be? What should I do with my ads? Blah, blah, blah. And ironically, most of the time we end up talking about like, how do I sleep better? How do I have more energy? How do I get bothered by stuff less? Because we start to realize that at the core of all of our successes ourselves, being able to continue to move forward irrespective of obstacles, and then eliminate those obstacles rather than it being a strategic tactical thing. And the best example of this, people who struggle versus people who are successful is, I think for me, is I look at Facebook ad comments and the people who are just talking absolute crap about this is a scam or that doesn't work or this, and they're looking at strategic individual things and they have the time to spend to do that, really tells me that they're not looking at the things that matter. So I think that when we're caught in a spiral, it's like, and some people listening to this will be caught in some of those spirals, is look at yourself first and start to lift all of you up. I think that's the lesson in this.
Absolutely. I think there's a difference between sort of working day to day and building things for the future. And I think that's the difference between money and wealth, if you like. It's so now, and this was a pivot probably 7 or 8 years ago. I pivoted to thinking more long term and building things that may have no value, really, and really just be a cost in the short term. But when they flourish, if they blossom and bloom, will be very, very valuable. I mean, take my podcast, for example. So the Smarter SE podcast, you kindly shouted out in your intro. We've had some incredibly successful guests on the show, right? Some people I'm honored to call friends now. And that show, right, started just as nothing, right? It just started as a very, very painful expense, lots of editing, lots of time, you know, very few listeners right at the beginning. And but you say, right, my goal is to build something big. It's going to take some time, and that's now a very, very powerful asset that I love doing, right? And love
Mm.
recording these shows and love the feedback from the audience. And so sometimes looking out into the future a little bit, medium term, long term, right? What can I do today? Right, I've got to cover the bills, of course. I've got to keep the lights on this month, but let's try and get that out of the way. Let's try and figure something out, build some kind of asset, whether it's if you're selling services, let's close a couple of high ticket calls and get that nailed out of the way by the third of the month, right? Let's get that out of the way. Bills are paid. Now let's focus on building some medium and longer term assets that will continue to pay in the future. And if you can automate those out in the future by putting a team in place, putting software in place, running an 80/20 on efficiencies, even better. Now you can run more of them and you can keep building these assets which will produce for you. And for me, those assets are typically business. I also, with the software company, have a number of SaaS software as a service products, which are fantastic as well. But it's typically business and building those kind of assets, building relationships, building networks. But really now trying to focus on where can I bring value without any kind of concern about getting that value back. Because
Mm.
if you've covered your day to day, you don't really need any value now. You can just focus on giving, helping, and just be confident it will come back. Worst case scenario, if it doesn't come back, you've helped a bunch of people. You can sleep well.
Yeah.
You could die well,
And
right? Like, it's
the
great.
irony with that is when you're more purpose driven, you're leading with value, you ironically receive more value back because you're building it for the right reasons and people can feel that. And because you're focused on getting them better outcomes, um, the whole business grows. Like when people are always saying, I want to make more money, I want to make more money, they tend to, what does they say? Like in the pursuit of, I can't even say it right, but like you're pursuing money, you're not going to get it because you're chasing the wrong thing, because it's not money that gets you money, it's value that gets you money. And I really like that. That's what we've been doing a lot lately, is focusing purely on the value. And this show is an example of that. There is no end game with this other than to provide value, because I know that when people are exposed to that value, they can make better decisions for themselves. And because I know that what we do works, it just inherently leads to, let's have a conversation, versus focusing on any kind of sales process of constantly pitching things. It's lead with value, but just make sure you've got that asset behind it that can leverage it. And like you said, cover your bases. I think that's good. I think that's really good. When you're when you were doing what you were doing, you were driving traffic, you were getting eyeballs, and you started making products. You obviously started in a low ticket space. You were starting with smaller things, and then you started to realize, what if I started to build brands around this? Is that right? You're selling other people's products or products that you didn't even have to deal with, to then starting probably creating some of your own, and now making brands. What's been your biggest lesson with that in terms of the e-commerce space versus, say, going into a coaching space or doing the affiliate thing?
Sure. So it comes back to building assets, right? So one of the things that I figured out with Teespring now, we sold thousands, I mean hundreds of thousands of t-shirts, right? I have no idea what the if you're calculating the revenue, what that would be, because they just pay you your commission, right? You never really see the sort of sales numbers. But what I realized was I was building someone else's business. So Teespring in this case, for example, and we worked with some other companies that are similar to Teespring. And so you're not building an asset, right? You turn off the ads, you turn off the eyeball attractors, and there'll be a little bit of a halo effect, but eventually it will die down. I still get sales from Teespring, which is great because there's some t-shirts up there, but we're not talking a lot, right? But when we pivot to building a brand, and this is why I'm so bullish on brand. When you build a movement where you're very, very clear about, this is what we stand for, this is why we're doing it, this is who we help, this is who we are, and you hold yourself and your team and you hire, literally hire based on these values, when you hold everybody accountable to that and you're consistent with that, people gravitate towards you. And that is really valuable. So take New Brew. Like, we have a mission. Our mission is to fortify 1 billion meals by 2025. As you said in your introduction, there's 2 billion malnourished people in the world right now, right? Which is about a quarter of the world, by the way. It's significant. Okay. And those people don't have basic nutrition. So we said, well, do you know what? One of our missions, like our most public facing mission for New Brew, is going to be to fortify, which means adding essential nutrients to the basic food that these people are consuming. We're going to fortify 1 billion meals. Okay. And we did it like that rather than just sort of saying a percentage of revenue or something like that. We wanted to make it quantifiable. And so we're able to say to our customers, with every single purchase, we will fortify the meals of at least one child for at least a year with every single purchase. And so now they're like, okay, I get it. I get it. If I buy this, I'm going to get this great product that helps me, tastes awesome, and is a game changer, right? Our customers' words, not mine. But at the same time, I'm also going to indirectly help someone that has never, not at the moment at least, has a chance of being able to afford New Brew. They're concerned with not getting something that we would consider fairly insignificant, like diarrhea, because it could be life-threatening, right? They haven't got the basic nutrition. That's what they're concerned with, right? They might have internet, right? They might have internet in their area. They might be getting internet in their area, and that's great, but they won't necessarily have the time to be on the internet and do their research and improve themselves and maybe get some qualifications, maybe go on to cure something significant like cancer, right? Because they're focusing on staying alive, which is ridiculous. And I don't mean it's ridiculous to them. I mean, it's ridiculous that we're in a world where there is such a polarization, there is such a difference between the developed and our customers and myself. Like, nutrition's fine, right? Nutrition's absolutely great. I'm looking at how I can extract the extra 1% out of my brain. And there's people who are like, hope I don't die today. And so I can't even remember what your question was, but that is the difference. The brand. So the reason we pivoted to brands is you're building an asset, right? You're building something. A brand is a valuable asset that people gravitate towards. We could shut off our traffic, and we have customers that love what we do, love our product. They've made it a part of their daily lives, and they'll come back and they feel good purchasing from us because they know they're going to get the benefit and they know they're going to give benefit, right? And that's kind of the difference. And so the pivot to brands was part of that realization of, let's not build someone else's business, let's build our own business where we can also control what we're doing it for, and we're not doing it for money, we're doing it for a much larger purpose. And if you're ever unsure about where you're going and whether your direction is a direction you want to go to, I would recommend doing the gravestone test. As morbid as it sounds, ask yourself, what would you like written on your gravestone? And probably your answer won't be, here lies Steve, millionaire. I made lots of money. It probably won't be that, right? It'll be great father, giver, philanthropist, and so on, right? Whatever it is for you. So yeah, I mean, that's my soapbox answer there for you, James.
That's so good. That's so good. And the people listening to this, generally speaking, are very driven by what they're doing, and they were in it to help people, because that's what most of us get into some kind of healthcare, especially the alternate space, for, as we had an epiphany, a realization, an experience that we now want to perpetuate this into more people's lives, not because we thought this would be a great business decision. And we fell into business because we didn't want to work for people, or we wanted to have more control, or we thought it was the only way of doing it. And so what we're doing with bringing people like yourself on is that people can hear these sorts of things and use it to make their businesses better, because we're not inherently business people. We're practitioners who are in business rather than being in business and then trying to to figure the rest of it out. So I think branding is an important part, especially when you've got a message and meaning behind it. Not what your logo looks like and what your name is, but the culture of what you're doing. I think that's, to me, what brand is. Now, what made you have this realization to switch to developing assets and brand? Was it because it was an epiphany and you realized, hey, like I need to build a brand? Or was it because you got burned and you realized this sucks and I need to have an asset behind me?
I think it's once you get past the point, it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? You get past the point where shelter is your main focus, which in the developed countries means having enough money to meet your rent or your mortgage payments, right? That's your shelter, and then you go a little bit past that, and you kind of unless you're very very extravagant, you're kind of ticking the boxes of the sort of gadgets and gizmos and shiny objects and things that you would like, and you're living a comfortable life. And I think there's a diminishing returns the more money you make. So, rough rule of thumb here in the UK, it might be that the impact of crossing or switching, getting past 20 grand a year to 30 grand a year would be life changing. To go from 30 grand a year to 50 grand a year is like, I'm a little bit more comfortable. To go from 50 grand a year to 100 grand a year, you're like, I've got some more investments. And so when you get past those points, and I think really you should be thinking about this as soon as possible, even before you're at those points. You start thinking about, right, what's the meaning? What am I doing? What's the bigger purpose? And what's the value? How can I help? How can I make an impact? How can I build something I'm proud of? How can I leave a legacy? How can I demonstrate to my family, friends, peers, and next generation spawn, right? How can I start being a living a higher life, living a more purpose driven, impactful life? And that's a realization which I think for those where it happens sooner, they will naturally feel more fulfilled sooner, rather than chasing money. But if you're chasing money to sharpen your axe and to learn the trade and to learn, to build the tools and get the understanding and get the failures under your belt, that's absolutely noble, fine, and everybody's been there, myself included. Um, but if you can make everything you do deliberate because you have a plan for it, it's it's just a lot more fulfilling and it's a lot more purposeful. Going back to the podcast for a second, so Smarter Destiny is the name of the podcast, and it's also the name of the brand, right? Which includes two books. The most recent one's 1% Secret. The mission of Smarter Destiny is to build and this is a little bit less specific than New Brew, but still relevant, is to build an army of enlightened entrepreneurs. Okay. Now, in the book, I define what an enlightened entrepreneur is, and uh, not hitting the bullets exactly. So sort of summarizing a little bit. An enlightened entrepreneur absolutely has a responsibility to make money and to be successful, but an enlightened entrepreneur has an absolute responsibility to leverage that success, reach, wealth, to make the world a little bit better than they found it. So as a result of their time on Earth and all the effort and energy they put out there, the world is slightly better at the end of their journey than at the beginning. So it's like the opposite of any cigarette company, right? So the more impact they have, the more customers they have, the worse the world is, the more lung cancer, right? The opposite of that, the flip side of that, right? And so what we're doing with Smarter Destiny, a bit like yourself, James, is we're educating our audience, who are typically obviously entrepreneurs, but typically serial entrepreneurs that have been there and been around the block a lot more. And we're educating them and giving them the tools and giving them access to these amazing entrepreneurs and founders that they can leverage and become mentees of, right? And they can sort of have a audio mentor right in their ear every single week. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to arm this army of enlightened entrepreneurs and teach them to have a purpose and to have that drive to make the world better with their success, right? Absolutely enjoy life, absolutely, but also use a little bit of that success and that wealth to just do some good. Because with New Brew, we're gonna make an impact, and we're doing great things. But if we could have thousands and thousands of people all with the same mission, we're going to make so much more impact. And that just feels, on a basic level, that just feels much better than I made $1 squillion today and I've got no friends.
Yeah. And I think that, and part of why I feel so successful these days, even though objectively nothing has changed, relative to even a couple months ago, so to speak, in my lifestyle, or even if a business has grown, that's not what the measure is with me, is realizing that I'm winning when I go up and I'm winning when I go down, because I'm always just winning. And for me, that's been a psychological shift. An acceptance of where I'm at is really, really good. And anything more is just always really good. And anything that I'm doing is always really good. I get to work from home. I get to go and see my babies. I get to do whatever I need to do and serve them and create legacy. But at the same time, the impact that I'm having with the people that I'm working with on them and their communities, and because they're health professionals, if I help you get more clients and you help those people, because I only work with people who help people, then by extension I've helped them. You know what I mean? So there's this flow on. What it's really come to for me is I've detached from the outcome. So if I'm already winning, and whether I make more money or help more people today or not, I don't feel anything necessarily extra from that. I've stopped this roller coaster of up and down, and it's happened because I've realized the purpose in what I'm doing, and I'm feeling a sense of purpose. And so I'm feeling empowered no matter what my bank account says that month, or the number of sales that month, or any of the business aspects. Those are ways of tracking things, but not defining what I'm doing. And so to your point, I think that understanding how to gamify your own success, your own happiness, is what I've done to get me to where I am, and experience that contentment and joy with what I'm doing. And I think that when we start to look at business that way, and take those principles, and even if see I'm okay with somebody being a dick at heart, but using creating change that's meaningful, even if they're just using it to make themselves get better, because then by extension people are getting better. You know what I mean? I feel like that's an okay trade-off, because otherwise the alternative is they're just going to be a dick and not help anybody else. And so for me, it's like, let's gamify our success by focusing on the purpose and the meaning behind what we're doing, and using that to get up in the morning and push harder, because it's the self-fulfilling and self-feeding machine now that's creating good, while also helping us to push harder. So for me, sticking the carrot is a great one. I like to dangle things in front of my face that are meaningless, and I could get it tomorrow or today, but I don't, because the poor and broke kid in the back of my mind looks at it and goes, "Oh, that'd be great." I'm all over this new DJI FPV drone. Like, it's a drone that you wear like a thing and you can fly around with it. I'm like, man, that's amazing. It's like $2,000. Like, I could just go buy it now. But I set this little carrot in front of my face of, if I can bring in this people, or I can help my clients get these outcomes, it's like gamifying it for me to move forward. And I think that sort of stuff is okay, especially when I'm not a cigarette company, as you said. If I'm a cigarette company, maybe I should change my model a little bit, because I'm only creating pain. I think that most of us get into it to create outcomes. I just think, and good, I just think that we don't realize how powerful that can be for our own success and momentum, and really using it at the forefront of our brand as a business development thing, because by extension, it's naturally creating good. And I think that people don't use that. You know what I mean?
And I think, we talked about the making money day to day to live, hand to mouth, to cover your bills at the end of the month, and reset, start again. And I think the same can be applied to creating good. I think it's wonderful that you and your clients help people, right? Cracking backs and curing pain. I mean, wow, there must be so many people that are like, oh, like, wow, it feels so good to just be able to sleep well tonight because I'm not like awkwardly twisted and in a lot of pain. But but what if you could do more than that, right? Like if you plant, for example, like with charitable initiatives, what if with every time you've done an appointment with your client and cured their pain, you also planted a tree on their behalf. Now I'm using a tree. I think that would be a fantastic cause, but I'm using that as a little bit of a sort of cliche example here. You plant that tree, and that tree is going to give oxygen for hundreds of years in the future, right? And it's going to pull a certain amount of carbon out of the atmosphere for hundreds of years. So now you've built that, if you like, it's like wealth, right? Like you've built an asset there, or created an asset that's going to do good every single day, whether you're looking at it or not, whether you're paying attention to it or not, right? And then you'll have a little forest that's grown, and that forest is a reminder of all the people you've helped. But that help goes on and helps and helps and helps and helps and helps. And so, you know, I've seen that with a lot of sort of charitable initiatives. I've seen plastic being removed from the sea, for example, is another great initiative. Donations towards carbon removal is a fantastic one. And what I actually recommend to anybody that's interested in this, and by the way, your customers, and I realize I'm sort of oversimplifying things when I say the customer that's just had their back cracked, right? That's the most, that sound is the thing that I remember most, right? When I go through it, they will feel better and may well choose you as their helper of choice compared to the other options that are out there that they can find with a Google search. If you've also got a mission, and they also know that this guy's a great guy and he's going to help me and he's well reviewed, but he also gives a shit about XYZ, and this is his mission, and he's going to, in this case, in this example, plant a tree on my behalf after the appointment, or plant half a tree or a small tree, or whatever it is that you can afford and you work out. So your conversion rate might go up. You might get more inquiries. Your customers might be like, do you know what? He said something that kind of annoyed me, but he can't be that much of a dick because he also cares about the environment, right? And and so what I recommend for anybody that's looking to explore this, and the conversion rate boosting bump, and the happier customers, and the customers that feel good because they're doing good, and really all they wanted to do was get their back cracked, is I recommend going to sites like givewell.org, which are, there's a few of these kind of sites that rank charities by the real good that they do in the world, by how much of the donation actually goes to the cause, how important that cause is, and is it to the world. So it's a charity where the money goes to the cause. Okay, so it's not like one of those charities with massive overheads and actually most of your money is just going into the managing director's pocket. It's a charity that actually is significant to the world, like mosquito nets preventing people from getting malaria and mosquito-borne illnesses, as opposed to a charity that's set up just to repair flip-flops that have broken when you're walking down the beach and my flip-flop's broken, damn, and they repair it, right? It's not particularly important in the grand scheme of things. So these sites are really, really good for helping you find, like, shortlist the causes that you might care about, and then pick one that feels good to you and is important to you, and implement it in your business and become an enlightened entrepreneur as a result.
One company, I'm not sure if you heard of them. It's B1G1, buy one, give one, and they have a similar philosophy in terms of who they choose to be part of it. But the way that they set up and we're involved with it is that if let's say it's an appointment, so let's say you're a nutritionist and you work with clients who've got diabetes, let's say. For every appointment you have, you can have it automatically set up with their system to track the number of appointments you had, and therefore the number of purchases of whatever charitable thing that you're choosing. So then it can auto deduct from your account, and you can say, we had 100 consults this month, and because of that we fed 100 children in the country, or we provided nutrition to, because you can use it to gamify your clients, gamify your success, your team, but you can automate it where you're purchasing individual units. So for example, an optometry practice can purchase let's say, glasses or eye surgery to kids in some place, for example, because you can select which charity, which thing, and which unit, one tree or whatever. And I think that's something that we've been doing in other ventures that we're part of, is setting this up to be able to give that forward immediately. And it's surprisingly cheap to make this stuff happen. You know what I mean? You can feed someone for next to nothing because of how these charities work. They're not making a chef-made gourmet salad that costs an exorbitant amount. They're able to do it in bulk and provide nutrition value very, very effectively, for example. So these are definitely things that I think are incredible ways of showing what you care about more than just delivering the service. Because like you said, people want to be attached to a movement. That's why people connect in Facebook groups and connect under conspiracy theories or connect under, whatever, is because they're connected by the identity of the group and the beliefs that come with it, and they want to partner with that. And when you've got your brand set around a core set of beliefs that you're actually not just saying, like, we fight for value, but then you're not actually doing anything about it, but you can show that you're actually doing it in spite of what's it's not a, if we make so much money, I'll do some stuff. It's like, it's part of the transactions that are already happening in your business. I think that's a powerful movement you can create. Yeah. Dude, this has been such a good show. So many things that I think that all of us should really be thinking about more in our businesses for building brand, building the business, but also being enlightened as entrepreneurs and giving back. Where's a way that people can connect with you online?
Absolutely. So LinkedIn would probably be the best bet. I'm not typically on Facebook. I'm not so active and fairly tight with. I'm trying so hard to keep that as the one social network where it really is just friends. But LinkedIn's a great place. Instagram, if you search Smarter, I think it's Smarter_Destiny, you'll find me on Instagram. I do have a Facebook page. Feel free on that one, or LinkedIn. By name, or you can email me, Martyn, spelled the weird old-fashioned way, at smarterdestiny.com. And it goes through to me, not an assistant. It goes through to me. I love the emails, and if something has impacted you on the show, or if you've got any questions, or you just want to say hi, then reach out. I love these conversations, and love any opportunity to help. Right? It's fun.
Amazing. Thank you so much, dude. I'm going to make sure that all that's in the show notes, as well as where people can check out some of the things that you're doing. New Brew, for example, I think is awesome. And your podcast as well. Thank you so much. Have a good day, man.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the show. If you liked the episode, please hit subscribe and leave us a review. I'd really appreciate it, as it helps us get our episodes out to more people just like you who want to know how to increase their revenue, impact more people, and build businesses that work for the lifestyle they want. Now, I know your time is valuable, and I know that you are here to learn the secrets to success in your health business. So I have something special for you just for checking out the episode. Now, if you're a health professional, coach, or trainer in business, and you're serious about growing a profitable, impactful business, then pay attention, because as a listener of the show, I want you to win. And so I've created a host of resources available exclusively for listeners of the show. So if you're tired of trying to figure out this game of business, marketing, and sales all on your own, and you're ready to just implement what's already proven to work rather than reinventing the wheel, I want you right now to go and check out healthcarebusinesssecrets.com/insider, and there you'll find over $5,000 worth of trainings, resources, and coaching available only for listeners of the show. There I'll give you the resources on everything from how to acquire 10 times more of your ideal clients using social media and paid ads, even referrals, how to increase your client conversion into packages at an 80 to 90% conversion rate like me, how to retain your clients for longer, getting them better results and making them happier, how to increase your prices and charge a premium to work with you, and how you can build a 6, multi-6, even 7-figure practice just like I did, but with 1/10 of the time and 1/10 of the effort. What I want you to realize is that everything I teach comes from exactly what I did to have success and still have success in my own health business, and I want to share that with you so you can have success too. So go check out healthcarebusinesssecrets.com/insider right now, and let me help you win big in your health business. Also remember to subscribe for 2 episodes every week full of the secrets to have success in your health business, as well as leave us a review so we know what you thought of the show. And I'll see you on the next episode.